Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and presumably DLive as well. No, actually, it's probably not going out over DLive. My name's Tom Luongo. I hope you guys are all enjoying yourselves. I hope you're all having a great week. Sorry for the lateness of this, but well, let's just put it this way. You can see over my shoulder. This is not your normal live stream. This is not your normal thing. I am on vacation. I've been here in northern New Mexico now since Monday. And, well, we're going to continue to do that. So, we're going to continue to be here for the next few days. It was Friday night. We're going to be here until, I think next Thursday. We leave on the 1st, and then it's 2 days drive back to Florida. So, this is just going to be kind of informal tonight. I've got some notes. I've got some things I want to talk about, but I'm not necessarily sure that we're going to do too much. I hope the volume's good. I hope actually that the encode is good as well. I have no idea whether the resort Wi-Fi is good enough to send this out. I'm using the exact same streaming settings that I have at home, assuming that I have no bandwidth. Looks like the stream's health is decent. So, as a matter of fact, Mark Bogosian, who just tells me he's in central Colorado right now, yeah, looks like we might have a hard time with this tonight. So, tells me he's in central Colorado. Well, we were just in Colorado this afternoon, as a matter of fact. So, but right now it's kind of working, but Google's telling me that, YouTube's telling me that the output is low. Well, we'll see. I'm not seeing any drop frames or anything. Now, there's nothing wrong, Edward Abbey. I'm just on vacation. And, yeah, I'm going to pan the camera around so you can see what I'm dealing with. So, out there right now yeah, that's the ski slope that the summertime that they don't, it's like I walked into, frankly, I walked into paradise, to be honest with you. I'm at 8,800 feet. Normally, I'm in Central Florida, North Central Florida, which is, I think my house sits at about 54 feet above sea level. So yesterday I went for a hike up one of the roads out of town. Wasn't going to go take a hiking trail because, God forbid, I like twist an ankle, break a leg, run out of breath or whatever. I was going to do so in a place where people were driving back and forth on four-wheelers and shit and going, yeah. Pick up the dumbass by the side of the road, would you, if you wouldn't mind. So I did that yesterday, and I walked up about a mile and a half up and then down. I think I hit a top height of a little over 9,000 feet. Yeah, that was rough, but it was fun, and it was cool. Today we went out rock hunting in New Mexico. Camille went shopping in Colorado. So it's been good. It's been good to get away. And actually, it's been funny. I'm writing in the mornings, and I found myself going, I actually don't mind writing. For the last couple of months, I have to tell you, it's been really hard to figure out what it is that I wanted to write about or not write about over the last few months. It's been really, really difficult. Like, there's some days you get up and you're like, I write 200 words, and then I walk around my house, and I go back upstairs and I write 200 more words. And nothing's kind of flowing. Nothing's really been flowing for a while now. And this was definitely needed to get away from my normal routine, my normal environment, and just get away from my house for a few days. So far, so good. So we've got bandwidth. That's cool. I might actually be able to do a couple more of these before I leave, and all of that. So before I go any further, Bagel Flinging Dragons asking me how's Quinn the goat. I have I used Quinny as the scene to set all these up. You guys do realize that Quinny's been long dead, and she's one of the great pictures that I got of all of my goats over time. That was one of the best pictures I ever captured of any of my goats, and it's such a great picture that I use it all the time. But Quinny died at the age of 3 from enterotoxemia in 2015. So, but But my other goats are fine, and that's that. But just so you guys know, there it is. Now, we've only been streaming for a couple of minutes now, so if you got notification only a couple of minutes ago, then you're fine. I'm hoping that the light holds out for as long as we want to do this. The sun's setting in the west. I'm sitting over here facing the west. There's a little light over here, and my wife Camille's inside watching a movie. So we'll do this for as long as we can tonight, because I don't really have anything else to do. I was going to take a nap and do one later tonight, 8:30 or so my time. Here's the problem with that: it's like 10:30 or 11 o'clock your time. So I forgot that I'm in the Mountain Time Zone, because I don't normally change time zones. So there it is. Let's see. Quinny was a girl, by the way. And yeah, no, she was a dairy goat, and she was a beautiful dairy goat, and she wasn't a terribly healthy dairy goat, but full-blooded Nubians are that way. They're very temperamental creatures, and it just happens. So yeah, so Jonathan says his billy goat's making moves on the doe who recently weaned her baby. Yeah, Jonathan, it's nearly August. Yeah, welcome to August. It's breeding season starts now. It's just what goats do. When they're not, when the girls aren't pregnant and weaning the kid and nursing kids, the bucks are trying to get them pregnant. It's just the way they are. They don't ever stop. So, all right. So a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about Brexit. I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard. I want to talk about what's going on with Boris Johnson. I want to talk about the potential response from Nigel Farage. I've been watching some of this. I don't know if you guys caught any of British Parliament this week, but it was ridiculously good. So it's what we saw out of Jacob Rees-Mogg as leader of the House of Commons was high comedy in the extreme, and nothing is better than watching very clever British people cut on each other in public, and doing so off the cuff. It's actually, it's close to Monty Python-esque how good things were in that initial session. But let's talk about that real quick. I think Johnson did exactly what he had to do to stave off Farage and the Brexit Party. He flushed over half of Theresa May's cabinet, something he needed to do without a doubt, because her cabinet was stocked to the gills with Remainers. And one of the things I said this morning, or I wrote it last night, but it published this morning, my article over at Money and Markets, is that personnel is policy. It's something we talk about on our private Slack channel all the time. It's something we have to remind ourselves when it comes to Donald Trump, that part of Trump's problem is, of course, that his personnel set the policy for him when he's the one who should be setting policy. And that's the problem, I think, at this point in time with Trump's administration and everything else. I'm just going to move things around and get the window set up properly so that we can actually see each other. Yeah, so Rob Smith says July 24th, Bojo as PM, and the Mueller train wreck was a great day that was. I agree. It was a good day for I don't know, freedom, rationality, something. It was good. It was just good television. If for nothing else, we had good television for the first time in quite a while, because God knows whatever they're putting out on TV today is terrible. But I think that what Johnson did what he absolutely had to do. He had to create a Brexit tier heavy cabinet, because if he didn't, he would be signaling to the markets that this Brexit uncertainty was going to continue, and that two, he was going to continue to tell the British people that he was lying to them during the leadership campaign, and three, that would only make it worse for the Tories come October 31st if they didn't leave. So, as far as I can tell, right, and that's where I am, by the way, Red River, New Mexico. You can, if he didn't do any of that, I wouldn't have given him, a dime for his government succeeding, right? If he had come in with a weak-kneed Remainer cabinet, I really do think that Jeremy Corbyn would have gone for a no vote of no confidence on Wednesday. I really do think that, but he didn't do that because he knew full well that what Johnson did was to hit it out of the park with a majority of Leave voters, many of whom are voting Labour, and they just can't bring themselves to vote Tory, and they haven't made the switch yet to Farage and Brexit. So there's still a lot of voter inertia propping Labour's polling numbers up, and I'm sure that the polls are horribly biased in some way because there's damn lies statistics in British polling. But all of that said, Corbyn knows he doesn't have the numbers to win a general election if Johnson's talking the way he's talking and puts together a cabinet like he put together. And he publicly, in effect, buries the hatchet with Nigel Farage, which we've seen the beginnings of. So if he's going to do all of that, there's no way Corbyn's going to be able to run a general election on a let's just bin Brexit and remain in the European Union. Well, that'll play well in London. It won't play well anywhere else. It'll play well in Scotland, but it won't play well anywhere else. And it won't be enough to win a general election. It certainly won't be enough to win the 310 or 311 seats necessary to go forward. What would happen is Johnson would squeak through along with Farage and possibly the Dub to get a majority and do it all and just do it all over again. So, and wind up with the exact same situation that we have now with a slightly worse makeup for the Remain vote. The power that's left for the Remain vote in Britain right now resides in the Parliament. That's it. It doesn't reside in the electorate. And so at this point, this is the peak of their power of what they can do to affect the outcome of any Brexit negotiations or or to even stop Brexit altogether. I think the Davos crowd knows this. I think Tony Blair knows this. I think Dominic Grieve knows this. I think everybody knows it, which is why none of them were pushing for a vote of no confidence in Johnson when, the moment Parliament went back into session. And the reason why this is important is because if you look at the timeline of what has to happen in order for them to call for a general election that would happen, that would seat a new parliament before October 31st, the deadline in effect was Wednesday. As Mike Shedlock pointed out, and all he did was do the math, and then he did the math, and then that math and that timeline was corroborated by the British Electoral Commission, that this was the week that it would be possible for them to table a motion of no confidence, bring down the Johnson government before it was even formed, go for a general election and hope for the best. But if they were going to go for a vote of no confidence against the Tories, they would have done so back in March. But they were never interested in doing that back in March because they had Theresa May trying to push Brexit over the line, trying to push this withdrawal agreement, this Brexit in name only, over the line for the EU. They had this thing all worked out, and then they couldn't get it over the line because they couldn't get Parliament to agree to that terrible deal because they all knew that at the end of the day, if they voted for it, they'd all be out of a job. And then the political fallout after that would be immense. And would be even worse, because then the political fallout would be a general election. Farage would sweep in the power with somewhere between 350 or 400 seats, if not more. And then abrogate the friggin' treaty under Article 62 or Article 60 of the Geneva General Rules on Treaties. Whatever, I can't remember the actual document, but it's the Geneva Conventions on the implementation of treaties. And they think it's Article 62. right? It's Article 24 of the GATT Treaty for extending existing rules for another 2 years while they negotiate a free trade deal. I think it's Article 62 of the Geneva Conventions on the implementation of international treaties. So, is everything still good? Are we still running here? I just want to make sure everything, we're all still alive. It looks like we are. Okay. And I'm not missing anything in terms of commentary. So I think Johnson hit it out of the park. He did exactly what he needed to do to try and blunt the further rise of the Brexit Party. I still think that the Brexit Party is going to continue to poll somewhere in the low 20s, high teens, low 20s, with an average of around 20%, all the way into Brexit and possibly beyond. Farage is already positioning the Brexit Party in a much more general position. He's doing exactly what I've complained that AFD has not done, Alternative for Germany have not done in Germany. Okay? Which is, comments are so good. Francis here telling us, talking about, comedy and fantasy. Corbyn is never going to be Prime Minister of the UK, France. Never. Even if Labour were to win, Corbyn would never, ever, ever become Prime Minister for more than about a week. He's already facing multiple defections within his own party. The knives are already out to take him down. Tom Watson and Yvette Cooper and the rest of them have all been working against him. His own shadow cabinet have all been working against him now for months. He is done. So we'll see. Now, what goes one step further, but France does bring up an interesting point, which is that can Johnson even deliver Brexit? And that's why Farage will continue to poll, and the Brexit Party will continue to poll above 20% in order to hold Johnson's feet to the fire. The timeline between now and then is terrible. Okay? The EU is not going to budge for come hell or high water. They're not going to budge. They can't budge. If they budge on this, they budge on everything, and they lose Italy. They lose Italy on budget. They lose France on whatever. The French are so desperate under Macron to punish the UK for Brexit. Right? Macron is not going to agree to any changes. Which is, by the way, why Trump is out there now telling France he's going to put on tariffs and sanctions against French companies if they continue with this tax on U.S. tech companies. Don't think that there's not a Brexit angle on this, because there is. Trump wants Brexit as badly as we do. So this is what I think is happening. So Johnson's not going to get an inch from the EU. They may tweak the political declaration. They may try and tweak the backstop. What I'm worried about with Johnson is that he focuses, and Jacob Rees-Mogg both, that they focus on the Irish backstop, the Northern Irish backstop. Get that changed in some way, which will then, but still allow for some other ridiculous version of Brexit that would still suck. And that's the version that Nigel Farage is worried about. That's what he's been talking about. And I think he's right to talk about that, because that's what I'm worried about the most. Because because you could have a situation with Johnson that he gets a couple of tweaks, a couple of concessions from the EU, then declares victory, very Trumpian style, declares victory like Trump did with the fucking the NAFTA, declares victory and then walks away. I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me in the least to see any of that go down. So I don't trust Johnson as far as I can throw him. I know Farage doesn't trust Johnson as far as he can throw him. So, when you think about this stuff, the timeline is general election between now and October 31st not happening. Okay? Can Parliament derail the process with Jacob Rees-Mogg as the leader of the House? Going to be difficult. Okay? Without, with a cabinet that has taken the pledge to deliver a Brexit on October 31st, come hell or high water, it's possible. With Farage breathing down the Tories' necks, if they don't deliver Brexit, ups the odds even more. I think a no-deal Brexit is what's likely between now and then. I think there's going to be more infighting and more drama, but I think it's going to be just like the drama we saw in the lead up to the 29th of March, which is all they can do is extend and pretend. All they can do is try and change the date and hope that conditions politically move their way. Because if they were able to stop Brexit before this, they would have already done it. If they could have done it legally, it's because I keep hitting the table that the laptop is sitting on. I'll try to stop doing that. That's why the camera's kind of shaky. If they stop doing that, so if they were capable of stopping Brexit before March 29th, they would have done so. But they can't get around the law. Jacob Rees-Mogg kept making that statement to everybody the other day while in Parliament. Look, you voted for Article 50. You voted for the Withdrawal Act. These are acts of law, and the law stands, like it or not. Nothing is going to get through this, and nothing is going to get through this House that's going to change that. Dragon M says that Bojo may be controlled opposition. I agree that he may be controlled opposition. That's the problem. No one believes in Boris Johnson in any kind of functional way. He's a political cipher. He'll change with the wind. He'll do what he has to do in order to secure what he wants. To secure the advancement of his own career. That I absolutely believe. But at the same time, if that means a no-deal Brexit, he'll do that. Now, France comes up with there will be an election and Brexit will split between them and the Tories. Bullshit. Just like the Lib Dems and Labour are split down the middle. Why do you think Labour went full Remain? They're worried about losing everything on the left to the Lib Dems. They look at the electoral map and tell me, the voting map, and tell me in any functional way that there's a coalition government on the left right now that can actually deliver Remain. Labour, the Lib Dems, the Greens, and the SNP? Are you kidding me? Do you think that cabinet actually forms? Because that's what you're going to need. You're going to need all four of those parties, all four of them. Because hardcore Remain is about 40 to 41%. Hardcore Brexit is between 46 and 48%. And the rest is in the middle. And that's right now. You get these people to October 31st as hopping mad as they are, and you get a government that's not screwing, and that rhetorically isn't screwing around, it isn't like mealy-mouthing it, and you take that withdrawal act off the table, that withdrawal treaty off the table, and those numbers will shoot to 55 to 58% overnight. And remember, don't ever forget that general polls don't matter. Numbers ultimately don't matter. It's how many seats can you take? How many seats can you win? Because that's going to determine what Parliament looks like. And as far as I can tell, the electoral calculus that I see, there's no freaking way that the Lib Dems and Labour can win 310 seats. No way. The best they're going to do is somewhere between 250 and 275, maybe 280. But Brexit will take anywhere, at the worst projections right now, Brexit takes somewhere around 28 to 30 seats, and the Conservatives take around 270. So they're already close to the exact same scenario they have now. What's going to happen is there will be a general election after the Brexit due date, at which point there will be a conservative Brexit government that will be in command of at least 350 to 375 seats. That's what's most likely going to happen. So what could possibly go wrong is what Mark Rogozin now asked. What could possibly go wrong is the scenario I just laid out, that Johnson, as a stalking horse for the establishment, gets a couple of tweaks to the backstop, says, oh, look, see, I tried. I got something. And pushes that through. and a Brexit that nobody's happy with. I don't think he can go that route. I think he politically can't do that because Nigel Farage is holding his feet to the fire. If Farage and the Brexit Party weren't right now, as I alluded to earlier, and I got off track, right now, if you look at what they're doing politically in Britain, look up hashtag invest in the rest on Twitter, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Farage is already positioning the Brexit Party for what happens after they frickin' leave the EU, and that they have the solutions to making the country better. They are moving from a single issue party already. They've already begun to rebrand themselves as the party that can move Britain forward into the future. This is what AfD hasn't done in Germany, and it's why they're languishing below 15% now. And I said this a year ago, that when they were hitting that 16, 17% level in some polls, that they had to break through that. They had to become the party that can save Germany. And they didn't do it. They remained the anti-immigration, anti-Merkel party. And the minute Merkel started to back herself away from the scene and started to become less important politically, look what happened. Their numbers shrank. The numbers sank down into 12, 13% range. The Greens rose as the Social Democrats fell. It's exactly what I said would happen. Mojo Jojo says everyone is on edge here in the Northern Ireland border. I wouldn't worry about the Northern Ireland border. The UK has no desire to put up a barrier. I don't think, and I think if the barrier goes up, it'll be the EU that does it. And I'm telling you, the EU is bluffing on every one of these points. They're bluffing on tariffs. They can't afford to put tariffs on the import of British goods. They can't afford to have the Brits then put tariffs on exports of German goods. Are you kidding? Have you looked at German economic statistics? I mean, have you looked at what's happening in the Eurozone right now? Are you out of your mind? I mean, just because these people say these things are going to happen doesn't mean they're real. Just because, the Mark Carney, the head of the BOE, or Mario Draghi, or some other very important person goes out there and says, well, this is what's going to happen, or some study from fucking Cambridge or whatever says, oh, well, the Brits are going to lose 10% of GDP, and this is going to be horrible, and this. That doesn't mean it's anything if it's fucking true. These people make pronouncements all the freaking time. The IMF makes economic predictions all the time. Every day they make economic predictions, and every single fucking one of them is wrong. The Fed is the worst financial forecaster in the world, and yet we're supposed to hang on every goddamn word these people say? This is the part that everybody following Brexit needs to realize. That all of these people are simply just talking their goddamn book. They don't want the Brits to leave. They are committed to the European project. They're committed to the European Union. They're committed to the resurgence of the USSR on the European continent. That's what it is. It's an unelected technocracy built on complete control over every aspect of your life. Period. That's what they want. And they're desperate to implement it, and they're desperate to keep it on track, and they'll say anything to convince you and to rob you of your reason and convince you that change is bad. Every day they change the fucking rules. They got the Nord Stream 2, the Nord Stream 2 consortium just filed a lawsuit this afternoon against the EU for changing the gas law in the middle of the freaking construction in order to try and stop Nord Stream 2, which they permitted. Because now, at this late date, now all of a sudden they don't want Nord Stream 2. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't get to just change the goddamn rules because you decided to change the rules. This is tyrannical behavior from a bunch of freaking people who don't even know what the fuck they're doing. They just know that today or tomorrow, their ox is going to be gored politically, and they need to change their mind. This is like, I mean, literally watching this shit play out is like watching it's like rereading Act 3 of Atlas Shrugged over and over and over again. It's like the same thing every day. It's why the empire is dying. It's why the title of this talk tonight is As the Empire Dies, or As the Empire Collapses, or whatever. Scotland does want to leave the UK. No argument. Juan Isaac says. I agree. Well, many of them do. But not enough. Maybe more now? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The Scottish National Party continues. It's like the Democrats. Voting for the SNP must mean that everything about the SNP is brilliant. They want more Scottish socialism. They want more EU integration. They want more of all those things. When for the most part, what most Scots want is to be free of England. That's why they vote the Scottish National Party, because they're Scottish nationalists. It doesn't necessarily that they want the SNP's policies. That's the problem. It's the same thing with the Democrats. And their anger and a lot of Scots' anger with the Brits is real, and the SNP is the only vessel they have. So Mojo Jojo makes some really great points about Northern Ireland. The Irish government is trying to put the pressure on that it's the Brits that it's the Brits' fault for all of this when it's really not. Of course it's not, and that's because Leo Varadkar is a fucking EU integrationist par excellence. The guy's a fanatic. And oh, by the way, the Irish banking system is so freaking over-levered that without and so wedded to the U.S. dollar. Have you looked at they've turned the whole freaking country into a hedge fund, for Christ's sake. If you looked at the amount that that Ireland owns in U.S. Treasuries, they own more U.S. Treasuries than the fucking Caymans. They own more U.S. Treasuries than the Saudis do. Go look at the TIC report. The Irish own over 300. That's why so much crap gets laundered through the Irish banks, and the Irish banks are a mess. And you don't think they're exposed? They're not exposed to the crap at Deutsche Bank? Or Commerce Bank? Or BNP Paribas? Or Unicredit? Or ING? All of these banks are fucked. All of these banks are fucked. And they're absolutely fucked if a Brexit happens. If a no-deal Brexit happens, they're absolutely fucked even more. Yeah, so as Mojo Jojo says, Leo, the U.S. puppet, is saying it's the Brits' fault if the Irish put up a border, right? Because the Irish will be forced to put up a border because of Brexit. That's your own goddamn fault. The Brits are saying we don't need to have a hard border. It's the EU that will have to that will demand that their standards are enforced. That's Ireland's problem. Northern Ireland, I've been saying this for over a year. The Northern Ireland border is the EU's problem. Once that became the issue, once Theresa May started to frame all of Brexit around the fucking Irish backstop, I knew then. I always suspected that she was a stalking horse for the EU, but I knew it the minute she started bringing this. Like, what the fuck? Why is this even important? The Irish border is the EU's problem. They're the ones that have ridiculous import standards. They're the ones with the problem. So let them fix the problem. That's not the Brits' fault. It's not the Brits' problem, but trying to put it on the Brits and make it their fault has been. And with the minute Theresa May entertained that argument in any way, I knew that she was working for fucking Angela Merkel. I just knew it. Let's see what else we got. Valarossi says, let's see what happens when Russia's gas contract with Ukraine expires. Then they'll be begging for Nord Stream 2. Valarossi, we've got movement on that as well. I wrote about this earlier in the week for Strategic Culture, but it hasn't come out yet. No. I wrote about it earlier in the week. It's on my blog. I don't remember what I wrote about for Strategic Culture. Now that I think about it, I wrote so much this week. It was fun. I actually enjoyed writing this week. Project Ukraine is falling apart. Zelensky's begging now Gazprom to reopen talks. Zelensky, the new president of Ukraine, whose party just got who just earned an outright majority in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, is begging the Russians to reopen talks about the gas transit contract. Now, the Russians haven't said anything other than, yes, we should open up talks. But Alexei Miller, the CEO of Gazprom, is like, look, we have so many issues outstanding. The best we can do between now and the end of this year is to extend the existing contract. He said that back in June. Now, obviously, Miller will be more than willing to sit down and cut a deal if Putin tells him to. The other thing to remember on this is that Putin's going to want him to Gazprom to cut a deal because they have to. All right, the sun's starting to go down, so I'm going to see if I can get some more light here so that we don't lose complete, so it doesn't look terrible, right, going forward. Hold on for just a second. Where's my flashlight? There it is. So we'll turn on some light. That's better. It's a little bit better. So, because we could be here for a while tonight. Yeah, so Reckless Amanda, the great Brett Harris is in the house telling me is pushing the same line I am, which is that Putin and Zelensky are going to talk about this. They're going to they're going to cut some kind of deal, and I'll tell you. And the reason why is that Putin wants to cut a deal on gas transit with Ukraine. The reason he wants to do this is because he needs to. He needs to reassure the EU that that the Russians are not looking to monopolize gas transit. To monopolize any further the gas market in Europe. That the Russians have been very clear about this. It's like, look, we don't have anywhere close to a monopoly. And moreover, not only do we not have a monopoly, but your demand is rising so fast that we almost can't supply you gas fast enough. So all these arguments about, well, this is having too much Russian influence over Europe's energy policy. This is nonsense. This is shit coming strictly coming straight out of the CIA, the U.S. military-industrial complex, and the British deep state, MI6. That's the only people pushing that line. Everybody else is like, no, Russian gas is fucking great. The Russians are great partners. They do a great job of supplying us with natural gas. They're fantastic. And so the whole thing is complete horse shit from every perspective. Come on. So I'm just trying to find a good way to set this light up so that I can actually, so it's not shining in my eyes, but I can actually get some light on my face. All right. So So that's what I think is going on there. I think that Putin politically really does want to make this stuff go away. If you understand what I mean, he really does want this to happen. That's what I'm trying to get. That's what I'm trying to get done here. There we go. Need some light on this side of my face. All right, there we go. Okay, that'll work. So I think the gas transit, some version of a gas transit contract is going to happen. What Gazprom is going to want is a more market-based thing. They're not going to want. They're not going to. No one's going to agree to a big take-or-pay contract like they currently have. They're going to go to a market-based one, which will allow. While gas is cheap, the Ukrainians aren't going to make a lot of money. But if gas demand continues to rise, then their share of the pie will probably rise as well. And it'll be good for everybody, but it's not going to be good at first because, of course, Naftagaz owes frickin' Gazprom billions of dollars. All right. So yeah, they did release those. So for those of you who don't know, the Ukrainians seized a tanker that was supposedly the one that blocked the Kerch Strait crossing back in November. They immediately released the frickin' sailors. I'll bet you dollars of dog shit that was done by. This is, remember, Zelensky's not in charge of anything. Just like a lot of shit happens around Trump that Trump's not in charge of. We have members of the CIA, you've got members of the military, you've got members of the bureaucracy just doing stuff. And then Trump having to come back and clean it up later. And I think that this incident with the tanker is one of those things. Now, Valarossi brings up a great point about, Zelensky is just the new face. Russia needs to hold firm and let he thinks that they should let the contract expire, and because Ukraine is not on the Minsk agreements. Now, I understand that, but that's not Zelensky's fault, and that's not going to be Zelensky's fault until he can get rid of the serious bureaucratic nightmare and the half dozen vicious poison pills that Poroshenko left behind, and that the United States and Canada and the Brits are working overtime to maintain those positions. And so he's got a lot of house cleaning to do. But if the Russians want Nord Stream 2 to go through, look, Merkel's made this very clear. If she's going to help get Nord Stream 2 across the finish line, there's got to be a gas transit contract with Ukraine. They're really worried. The Europeans don't want to pay for Ukraine anymore. They're clear on this, and I think that's also coming from the IMF as well, because Trump is not willing to put any more money into Ukraine. That much is very obvious. So there's a lot of stuff going on relative to that. I think that the gas transit contract is the perfect beginning of rebuilding the relationship between Russia and Ukraine, as well as if Johnson, and here's the next side of this, if Johnson and Farage wind up in control of British government. This is one of the main reasons why they're desperate to keep Jeremy Corbyn out of government. It's nothing to do with his socialism. They can deal with that. The fact is that Corbyn knows that the British deep state is out of fucking control, and that's what he's actually against them on. That's why they keep pushing the anti-Semitic line and everything else. The area where I am most worried about both Johnson and Farage is that they are pretty standard conservatives as far as foreign policy is concerned, and as far as Britain's place in the world is concerned. And I think that the worry with both of them, and this is an area where where Labor's right in attacking them, but on the wrong issue. They keep talking about the National Health Service and buying American pharmaceuticals and all that shit, and chlorinated chicken. That's bullshit. That's not what they should be talking about. They should be talking about whether or not these guys are going to assume British foreign policy to American foreign policy, but they're already in lockstep. Are they going to continue this lockstep nightmare of anti-Russian, anti-Iranian, pro-Israel bullshit? They're going to continue that that line. That's where they're weak. That's where they're vulnerable. They're both very vulnerable about that. Am I going to talk about Tulsi? Yes, I am. I'm going to get to her in just a minute. So, but Val Rossi, I understand. He says that Russian gas is super cheap. The Russians hold all the cards. They do. They should make make Ukraine pay. Getting blood from a stone? Putin has always been willing to trade money in the short term for political gains in the long term. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about the realpolitik of the situation. All right. All right. So let's he's not anti-Russian, but he is conventional when it comes to anything the Americans want. He's willing to give them, especially if it comes from Trump. So we have to see how that plays out. And again, Trump is still the wild card here, because we don't know how he's going to jump in his second term, which at this point looks pretty much guaranteed. All right, so speaking of that, let's hop across the pond. Let's get back over to North America. I know Juan Isaac said, can I ask questions? Can he ask questions about North America? Absolutely you can. I'm going to start talking about Tulsi Gabbard, because I think Gabbard did herself proud this week on two very important issues. And one just hit the newswire about 2 or 3 hours ago. So, and we've been going for 45 minutes. And we'll probably go for another 45. I don't see any reason to cut it off at an hour tonight. Camille's watching a movie I don't want to watch. So I got nothing else to do other than play World of Warcraft. And as long as my laptop has because I'm on battery, so I've got probably about another 45 minutes, so before the laptop starts to die. So let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard. So the first one is that she sued Google. Now, I don't know if I'm sure you guys saw this. She sued Google for Google suspending her AdWords account during the hours post-debate, when people were most interested in her, and they suspended her account for no reason, and they didn't give her any reason. I actually read the legal brief. I actually read part of the argument that was posted on Zero Hedge, the legal the lawsuit. I actually read part of it today, and it was very interesting to see what they were talking about and how they were framing the argument, which is very important because what she's doing is she's actually setting Google. There's about 3 or 4 things that come out of that. And then the other thing that she did, which is even cooler, was that she signed on as a co-sponsor of Thomas Massey's Audit the Fed bill. So I want to go back for a minute, and I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard from a tactical perspective and from a strategic perspective. She's not perfect. We've already talked about this multiple times on the stream. But you all know that I like Tulsi Gabbard. And I like her because there's a number of reasons. And I wrote about her this morning about the Google thing. What drives me nuts, and every time there's a pro-Gabbard article or Gabbard does something good on Zero Hedge, the knives come out from all the freaking knee-jerk reactionary retards, for lack of a better term, on Zero Hedge. Go, oh, she's anti-gun, so I don't like her. She's this, so I can't vote for her. So I'm not asking you to vote for her. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking you to remind yourself that you have somebody up there who's anti-war. Oh, well, she's a member of the CFR. Yeah, because she's on the Foreign Relations Committee, and when you're on the Foreign Relations Committee, you're immediately made a member of the CFR. Oh, by the way, nothing you can do about it. She's not like, a lot of people are members of the CFR who are anti-CFR. Got news for you. It is the way it is. Fucking Angelina Jolie is on the CFR, for Christ's sake. Got news for you. It's a big group. So there's always that stuff comes up. Okay? She's anti-gun. She's pro-identitarian politics. Oh, fine. Yeah, she is. In many ways, she's a very standard Democrat. But just like conservatives wouldn't vote for Ron Paul because he was too liberal on this stuff, or he's mad, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. Never let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Tulsi Gabbard is right on now 3 very important issues. 1, the empire. She's been attacked on both sides, means both sides hate her, and Google just censored, post-debate, a young, attractive, intelligent female of color who's a veteran running for president because she is what? Anti-empire. As the great Justin Raimondo beat into our heads for 20 years at antiwar.com before he died. The empire is all that matters. The empire is all that matters. You go against the empire, they come after you with everything. They did it to Ron Paul. They're doing it to Tulsi Gabbard. They're doing it, and they're working Boris Johnson over on the same issues. You notice that the last 6 months of Theresa May's premiership were rife with all of these British false flags and British provocations on Iran and Ukraine and everywhere. They were in overdrive. Continuing to bring up the Skripal incident, which is obviously an MI6 operation. All of these things. They did this on purpose. Because Theresa May is absolutely a committed, card-carrying, fucking deep state, piece of shit, fucking globalist bitch. That's who she is. And her fucking cabinet was that 100% down the line. Now the question is going to be, is Johnson that guy? Are they going to go after him? They hate Nigel Farage because Nigel Farage is against the European Union. But is he also against the globalist empire? I think he is. But, you never know anymore. You never know with these people. You never know what you really have until you actually push them, until you actually put them in power. So, and then the latest one was all of these freaking alt-right retards went crazy because she refused to sign on to the anti-BDS bill against Israel. Now, the woman has criticized Netanyahu. She has criticized Israeli foreign policy. And she's not perfect on Israel. She doesn't have to be perfect. But just because she's not good on this particular issue, that means that she must obviously be some fucking Zionist shill. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, seriously. She's 38 years old, guys. Do you realize that Tulsi Gabbard is only 38 years old? Do you understand that she is only 38 years old? She's too young to be president as it stands right now. She will not get out of the Democratic primary. But she can and will continue to burnish her political resume and continue to learn. And you'll notice that as the older she gets and the more she learns about things, the more interesting she becomes. Now, the anti-BDS bill, fair enough. I think it's a stupid bill in the first place, to be honest with you. I think it's just a dumb way of showing your antipathy to the way the Israelis conduct foreign policy. I just do. Yeah, she also went after Kamala Harris this week, which I missed. Cool. So Google's completely out of control. So what I love about Gabbard's lawsuit is following. One, if Google tries to buy her off, which is very possible, because she's suing him for $50 million, which for her would be a huge amount of money in order to build a war chest for 2024. Okay, no problem. That's one. It's an angle. But moreover, it also, if she decides to not be bought off, then they got to go to discovery. Then we get to find out for real what it is that Google actually does. That's more important. She may do that. At the very least, it's going to cause, it's also going to put Google on the back foot and not do this again after the next debates, which are far more important. She's in the second and third debates. She's got enough donors. She's jumped through the DNC hoops. Now she's going to be on a smaller stage with more important people, and it's not going to be, and the light's going to shine a little brighter on her. Remember, Ron Paul didn't break out after the first debate. He didn't break out until the third or fourth debate when Giuliani finally went after him, when he was starting to get some traction. Well, Gabbard is starting to get traction, and they're worried about her. This is why Google censored. This is why they junked all her freaking emails, and why they suspended her AdWords account. You have to realize that when they do shit like this, they're worried. They're scared. When they're scared, you have options against. You've got them by the balls, and they're going to overplay their hand. And so now she's cut them off strategically, that they can't do this to her by filing this lawsuit, because if they do it again, well, then they're freaking guilty, and she's not going to be bought off for $50 million. She's going to refile the lawsuit for $500 million, or she's just going to go to discovery in order to prove, which is exactly what Google doesn't want, and bring all of that into discovery. So which then she'll just turn right over to the DOJ, who then open up an antitrust suit against them, or further. You have to understand that it becomes the kind of thing that once it's entered into the record, people can use it in other lawsuits in order to then start taking Google down. So, you have to realize that that's what's going on here. These people are not perfect, okay? Tulsi Gabbard is running for president as a Democrat. She's going to sign on for anything that's going to make her look good versus Donald Trump. It's just the way it is. She's not going to play nice with Donald Trump. She's under no compunction to. This is politics. It's fucking blood sport. We're not fucking holding hands and singing Kumbaya here. Okay? Let's stop the freaking virtue signaling and the nonsense. Oh, it's just good enough. Yeah, but she went after Trump on the libertarian politics. Yeah, of course she's gonna. If she can get votes with that, if she can get donors with that, she's gonna do it. This is the campaign. She's running for the Democratic nomination. She's going to have to. I would. God fucking guys, if you don't understand that if I ran as a Democrat for president, that I would embrace identitarian politics for 12 months in order to get the votes necessary to fucking win the nomination, and then I would turn on those people like a fucking rash. You have to understand that this is about winning. Politics is not about any of this stuff. It's about winning. Okay, it is. I'm dead serious here. You'll notice that I'm not running for president as a Democrat because my principles mean more to me than that. And I don't think, but Tulsi Gabbard by definition is a fucking politician. So at some level, she's going to play the game. Now, is she too young to realize that playing the game is a bad idea? Maybe. Will she learn that in this campaign? Possibly. Because remember, what was so refreshing about Ron Paul? Ron Paul never compromised. Ron Paul reached across party lines all the time. Ron Paul voted against every budget that ever came down the pike because they were all unconstitutional. They called him Dr. No. He had 30 years in the House of being that guy, so that when they tried to come after him on his record was spotless. What's Gabbard? What's Gabbard got in her back pocket? Yeah, she's got a bunch of votes she's not going to be very proud of. She's going to have to learn, and she's going to make mistakes in this campaign. She is. She's going to make mistakes. She's 38. You didn't make she's 38. She's still a political neophyte. She's been in Congress for what, 7 years? Seriously. Tension says, I don't trust the DNC polls at all. How could 25% support Biden, less than 1% Tulsi? Even the U.S. public isn't that brain dead. I know. I don't believe the polls either. So don't worry about that. Worry about what happens after the second debate. As Brett Harris says, if she could stop the wars, I could care less. At the end of the day, but Camille and I are both committed libertarians. We were talking about this afternoon. At the end of the day, got news for you. Even if she is anti-Second Amendment, she can't do anything about it. Obama was anti-Second Amendment. Got news for you. Nothing happened. 8 years under Obama. Fucking Muslim, freaking U.S. traitor. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Obama was a traitor. Guess what? Second Amendment's still there, guys. As a matter of fact, Obama's packed court still reaffirmed the Second Amendment. Second Amendment's not going anywhere. It's not an issue. It's like it's another one of those issues that conservatives use to bludgeon people into purity tests. It's retarded. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. If I ran as a Dem, I'd have to dress trans. Yeah, that'd be scary. I'd look no less feminine than half the trans I've ever met. Jesus Christ! I met one the other day at the university bookstore. Was checking me out. I was buying a drink and some snacks for game night over at the Rights Union, and the university bookstore is right next to it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, and this person that looked somewhat like a woman, because there were tits and there was makeup, and then this deep booming voice that was deeper than mine. When I actually try to put on my deep voice, I put on my beautiful man voice, which I rarely do. I never put on my radio voice. I really should. I should not do these with my normal voice. I should do it with my beautiful man voice. Because if I did, then I'd probably get more people actually watching these streams. But regardless of that, I got that voice came. I'm like, where the fuck is that coming from? And I look up and I'm like, oh, it's this guy. It's Ingrid or whatever the hell his name was. I'm like, I so thoroughly just want to look at this guy and go, dude, you're a dude. Get over it. Stop taking the fucking hormones. You're a dude. You have balls. Get over it. Whatever. I didn't misgender him. I just said thank you very much. Good night, and I left as quickly as possible. Anti-war is important in light of the $1.48 trillion budget, Pentagon budget just passed yesterday. So Tulsi is a MILF. Unfortunately, she's not a mom. Rude dude. That's the problem. That's my biggest problem with Tulsi Gabbard. I've said this many times, is that she's not a mom. I wish she was, because if she was a mom, it would really change her dynamic completely. It would also probably make her even more conservative. All of her liberal tendencies would change tomorrow if she was actually a mom. I don't know why she doesn't have children. I haven't seen it addressed. I haven't seen it addressed. I really wish she did, because that's the thing that niggles in the back of my head about maybe she's a stalking horse. Ryan O says, I need a dictionary whenever I listen to this show. Good. Reckless abandon, to quote Maria Zakharova, who, by the way, is the incredibly awesome Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokeswoman for the Russians. Oh, she's fucking amazing. And that woman's a MILF, without a doubt. Obama was the most evil president. Maria Zakharova that woman's amazing. Yes. Agreed, Dragon M. So there we go. Don't take your hat to the university bookstore. It's a fake chick magnet. Oh God, don't do that. No, that shit's funny right there. tangent. Well, I can actually understand guys trying to be women in today's world. I do too, because the women wanting to become guys, that makes no sense to me. It's like they're tired of the privilege. I know. I don't get it either. It seems weird to me. All right. Yes. So the sun is finally set here in glorious and gorgeous northern New Mexico. I cannot tell you, honestly, I cannot tell you just how unbelievably beautiful this place is. I mean, I can't. And every day I walk around out here and I look up and I just see, because you have to remember, I did grow up in New York, and I grew up in upstate New York. So I grew up, in the foothills of the Adirondacks. And driving around here, it reminds me so much of that, except that everything's more extreme. So as opposed to having a small hill next to a road winding around, a river valley or whatever, it's 1,500 feet worth of rocks that could fall on your head. But it's very similar when you don't look up. It just kind of reminds me of, and I really took it for granted as a kid, but I did love it. I did love the land I grew up in. Where in upstate, I grew up in Orange County. I actually grew up in a little town called Highland Mills, which is next to Harriman, which is where Route 32 and the New York State Thruway meet. It's right near the Grateful Dead Rock. For those of you who are my age, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But why is she a member of the CFR? Because I think she's on the Foreign Affairs Committee or one of the committees that she's on. She was automatically made a member of the CFR. FYI, that's why. So. I have friends from Buffalo because I'm a huge Buffalo Sabres fan, Dave Groth. So, as a matter of fact, I have a friend I met online through the Buffalo Sabres and through message boards and whatnot, who now lives in Gainesville with his 2 children. And we've actually the only internet friend I've ever met that I've actually met in person and then struck up a real friendship with. And this is a friendship that's going on back 20 years now. We've known each other literally since the ESPN Buffalo boards in the 1990s. Great guy, lives in Gainesville now, and he still follows the Sabres religiously. I don't. He keeps me updated as to what's going on because he's actually, in all honesty, even though I used to be a semi-professional hockey blogger and sports writer in a former life when I used to work for AOL Sports. My friend Dave is far better hockey analyst than I ever was. Not in Breaking Bad country. That's 120 miles to the south in Albuquerque. And we're going to visit Albuquerque later in the week because I'm like, dude, how can we not come to New Mexico and visit Albuquerque, the site of both Breaking Bad, and we also were huge fans of the USA series In Plain Sight about the WITSEC inspectors. Great show from earlier in the decade. Actually, really enjoy rewatching those because they're just good mind candy. They're just good candy. So, got to go visit Albuquerque. A Sabres fan. Sorry for your luck, Tom. Oh, God. Yeah. Dude, seriously. No goal. I'm still waiting for the geriatric crowd to come out of retirement and replay Game 6 of the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals because that game was never finished. But, anytime I've met an internet friend in person, it's been really weird. I actually haven't had that problem. I've only met 1 or 2 friends from the internet. I've met subscribers who've come through or people who've emailed me, who've read my work and whatnot. In the last few years, I've met some of them. And they've all been unbelievable people. So in this business that I'm in now, it's really, really cool. Have I watched Better Call Saul? I watched the first season of it, and it was very, very good. But like Breaking Bad, so goddamn depressing that we stopped watching it. Camille wouldn't watch any more of it. We lived for a long time in Beacon. Beacon is about a little more than an hour north of where I grew up. I grew up about an hour south of Poughkeepsie. My sister lives in Newburgh. My brother lives in Nyack, and my other sister lives in Monroe. Actually, she lives on the border between Monroe and Chester. So, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Not like anybody couldn't figure out who my brothers and sisters are if they did a simple Google search. So, Juan Isaac said he lived in Las Cruces, which was before the Central American invasion. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been to that part New Mexico yet. I think we're going to try and get down to Santa Fe tomorrow. I think Camille wants, goat tacos. So, not that we haven't had goat tacos before because we've made them, but whatever. But, goat tacos. But she had someone, she was in Mexico a couple of years ago, and she they were tongue-waggingly good. All right, so Thomas R. Skillman asked me to say Tulsi a stalking horse. Please explain. Okay, so the possibility of Tulsi being, so you understand what I mean by a stalking horse, right? That she could possibly be a stalking horse for the establishment by trying to draw in the anti-war crowd, but not actually be that person. That's the argument that the alt-right makes against her, and what, for lack of a better term, the zero-hedge morons make against her because she was a member of the CFR, and she did the anti-BDS bill, and all this stuff. The point, and that's the thing, I don't think that's true. I've watched her in enough long-form interview formats and enough town halls and this and that and everything else to see her with her guard down and see her in interacting with real people. I just don't see it. She's either the greatest actress I've ever seen, or she's genuine, and she's just young and enthusiastic and passionate about who she is, about what she believes in. And I think her stances on things, I think it's very consistent with her record as a person. Why she joined the military after 9/11, why all these things. She does believe in service. She just happens to be a Democrat. And part of the reason why she's a Democrat is because you can't get elected dog catcher in frickin' Hawaii if you're not a Democrat. Yes. Right. Beacon is right across from Newburgh. It's been a long time since I've been there, so. So Mark Shear says that Albuquerque is one of the most beautiful cities in the country. When I lived in Amarillo, Texas, I used to love hiking in New Mexico. New Mexico is just gorgeous. It absolutely is gorgeous, what I've seen of it. And we drove up into Colorado and just drove through up in there desperately. We've just driven through some of the most desolate places in the world. And at one point I was driving through the San Luis Valley in Colorado, and I said to people, Camille, look, if you were to strip the sagebrush off of here, this place would look like fucking Mars. I said, this is just Mars with sagebrush on it. I mean, and you go to Utah, and it's just Mars, right? I mean, there's not that much. I mean, I've been to Utah, and there's not much out in most of Utah either. But I mean, it was crazy how desolate the whole thing is, and how little there is. There's so much land in this world that is inhospitable to humans, but humans still live there, that look inhospitable to life, and yet life clings to it. We're not running out of land anytime soon, guys. I got news for you. Valor says, I don't see any anti-war effort taking off in the U.S. Not with the current control that they have over the media and the political system and the permanent bureaucracy and whatnot. I agree with you. Yeah, Freedom Fox says anything is possible, but I kind of doubt Tulsi has controlled opposition. The establishment really has torn her apart. I agree, and I think that's your best evidence that she's not controlled oppo. In the same way that I think that Nigel Farage is, and in the same way that I think that Donald Trump isn't. I keep looking at and that's your best evidence. And yeah, they all make mistakes and they all do dumb things and they all make and they all have positions that are consistent with someone who could be controlled oppo, but just because one or two data points confirms one side of your one potential conclusion, and then you've got 50 others over here, you can't ignore these 50 in order to say, but these two over here are what's important, are the only ones that are important. It's like that's the classic letting the perfect be the enemy of the good argument. It's the classic example of like, I've used this before, and I've even called some of my regulars out for this and say, look, you remind me of these guys on Zero Hedge who think that all the members of the FOMC are closet Austrian economists and are manipulating the Austrian business cycle to crash the economy and improve themselves and feather their own nests. I'm like, no. How about Occam's razor? How about they're just fucking stupid post-Samuelson Keynesians? Maybe it's just that's who they are. And they just don't know any better. And they don't care. And they think the Austrians are a bunch of fucking lunatics, which they do, because we are. They're not wrong. We're just right. Eat the mild green chili burgers in southern New Mexico, Tom. I will do that. I used to go through Highland Falls often, commuting to the Bronx, as Mark's here. Highland Falls is where New Paltz is. It's where New Paltz. Yeah, it's the Highland Falls, New Paltz area. One of my friends from my best friends from high school went to New Paltz. Went to SUNY New Paltz. I've been up there many times. Used to commute to the Bronx. My father used to commute to the Bronx from Highland Mills. To the 8-8. He was NYPD, so he used to commute from Highland Mills to, I think it was the 8-8 in the Bronx. 4-4 was in Brooklyn, was in Bed-Stuy. The 8-8 was in the Bronx, I think. So, yeah, and then he was transferred to the court, to the court system, to the criminal court division for the last few years of his career in NYPD. But yeah, he used to commute down the Palisades, across George Washington Bridge, the whole 9 yards. All right, let's see. What have we got? I think I'm running back. I think I'm missing some stuff here. So what about the stories about Tulsi's strange Hawaii guru? I don't know them. I know that she's a Hindu. I know there's a lot of other things. No anti-war yet because there isn't enough pain. Perfectly reasonable statement, Val Rossi. What is our true hope to defeat the deep state? Inertia, time, and the unsustainability of their economic policies. The Alien Museum was cool. I bought a glow-in-the-dark alien keychain in Roswell. What do I think about the 1947 crash in Roswell, New Mexico? I honestly, the whole Area 51 thing, I'm willing to believe anything about it, but I don't look into it. I could care less. I think there's something there. I think the government likes to keep secrets. But would not be surprised if aliens have visited the planet. I wouldn't be surprised that the government likes to keep secrets and float stories about aliens in order to throw people off from what they're actually doing. You know, a lot of that shit goes on. If you're in the San Luis Valley, then you're not too far from the sand dunes. Yeah, maybe not. Let's see. Jonathan says, I do think Trump still has the potential to change foreign policy for the better despite all the mistakes he's made. I think he's beginning to realize that that's what he's going to have to do if he wants to get reelected in 2020 and if he wants to go down as the greatest president in history. Will anybody attack Trump for ballooning the debt, which he promised to control? I doubt it, because both parties are war parties. Agreed on all of that, Dragon M. He's happy to balloon the freaking debt. Trump never made any bones about being a fiscal conservative. He thinks he can grow his way out of the debt. He's out of his mind. So, got news. It's not going to work. Did you see that they're talking about lowering the military age to 16? I did. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea at all, considering how technically savvy you need to be to even be in the military at this point. But, having 16-year-olds in the military, trigger happy, shooting civilians, never a good sign. The only countries with competent leaders are Russia and China. I think Hungary has competent leadership too, but they don't have any power on the world stage. I also think that the Iranians have competent leadership because they've so far stuck it to the United States and Europe in multiple ways, and they're still fighting. Summer in Highland Falls, Billy Joel. It's a great song. Anything Trump changes, they will reverse in the end. Very possible. Very possible. But I also don't think that the United States has long for this life, considering the way the political situation in the United States is deteriorating. I'm going to move over here and do this. Let's see if that changes. Oh, that looks so much better. Let's do that. I think that at the end of the day, the United States is ungovernable in its current form. So Mark Shear says, you used to drive through my hometown. Wow. Not Highland Mills, not Highland Falls. Yes, you used to come down Route 32 from Beacon and then take the Palisades into the Bronx. Yeah, exactly. You didn't take Route 9. You didn't take Route 9 south then on the other side of the river. and then cross over at what I think, and then cross over using the down the Route 9, the Henry Hudson, to that's the other way into the Bronx, right? Dude, I haven't been there in 20 years. I still remember all this shit. It's crazy. Because one of the things you always know about a New Yorker, this isn't a side point, we'll get back to this stuff in a minute. You always know that you're dealing with a New Yorker because when you ask them for directions, they go, so which way you want to go? Because you can't just get a straight answer out of a New Yorker about how to get from point A to point B, because you got to know, well, what do you want? You want the easiest route? Do you want the quickest route? Do you want the shortest route? Do you want the cheapest route? Which route? What do you want? I know we don't ask each other for directions anymore. We just like plug shit into Google and do the same thing, but it's effectively the same thing. But it's really funny. What the fuck is going on with reinstating the death penalty? Good question. Military must have a recruitment issues to think that lowering the age requirements. Wish they'd bring back the draft, says Tensions. That's the fastest way to end forever wars. But they'll only ever talk about reinstating the draft and getting girls to sign up for the selective service. But the minute they try that, we're gone. I leave the United States the next day. My in-laws have already been informed. Camille already knows this, that if they tried to force any kind of government indentured servitude onto my daughter, I leave the United States, and I hand in my fucking passport, and apply for political asylum wherever I am. Fuck that. That is a no-no. That's a line I don't freaking cross. Under no circumstances is my daughter going to do any kind of indentured servitude to the fucking state. Ain't happening. How about a civil war play out quickly and with the millennials and Gen X quickly and with minimal bloodshed, because neither Gen X nor the millennials want to fight for this. It's only the boomers who want to fight for this. Trump had a strong string of victories this week. Express deportations, Mueller making a fool of himself, Guatemala is the new third safe country, and Trump can use the Pentagon funds for his wall. Yeah, he did. Dave Cross says, NYC truth. You're so right. If you know somebody from New York, they have to ask you. It's so funny. New York sounds like Brisbane. Interesting. New York State is so big and so beautiful and so depressed. That is also true. New York State is absolutely gorgeous, especially in about 2 months. In Florida we have 2 seasons. We have green, and we have brown. That's it. Everything's green, and then it goes brown, and then everything dies. In New York, you actually have seasons. You go from white to green to really green to red, orange, and all the colors of the freaking rainbow, and then back to white. Where would I move to? Jury's still out on that. Not sure, but all I know is that it's going to be some place where culture is reasserting itself as opposed to in retrograde, like it is here. That's all I can say. Mark Shear says, yeah, I used to use Route 9 actually, and sometimes 9D to 9. Or, yeah, exactly. I know what I know exactly what the route you're dealing with. I used to, you used to have to go over, we used to have to take Route 6 over the mountain, down to the Palisades, do the Bear Mountain Circle down to the Palisades. Protect the kids, great plan. It's just, there are certain things you do not, there's certain things you do not countenance under any circumstance. The news media is fueling a civil war. Do they even realize it? Yes, they do. And no, they don't care. Guatemala will take you, Tom. It's the new third safe country. Ryan O says, I'm going to identify as a woman if there's a draft. No, you're going to have to identify as a trans, because I think they're the only ones that are still allowed to not be in the... But they better draft women equality, baby. The worst was the Taconic. Oh, absolutely. That was super dangerous, and I almost learned the hard way to have good tires in the rain. Oh, the Taconic is crazy. Drafting women is a horrible idea. I also agree. What are we at? What's the time? 1 hour and 19 minutes. I got about 10 minutes worth of battery left, and then I'm going to have to go. So this has been fun. I've really enjoyed it. As always, I don't know how many people are in the stream tonight because I'm only on my I'm on my laptop. So I'll try and do another one of these maybe Sunday night or whatever. It's not like I have anything else going on, and it's not like it's hard. I'm glad that this actually worked out well. That it looks pretty good. I should do one of these during the day so we can actually, so it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like the fucking Blair Witch Project or whatever. But yeah, I miss doing these. You guys know that. You guys know I love doing these as much as you guys love hanging out and doing this stuff. So let's see. As always, but yeah, I'm going to probably cut it off here because I don't really have anything else to say. So like I said, we're going down to Santa Fe tomorrow. Any view on the riots in Hong Kong? I do. I think like everything else, I think everybody has to remind themselves that oppressive, tyrannical governmental structures are metastable. China's social credit score and the communist, mania for control over everything isn't going to last any more than the EU's desire for this, any more than it lasted in the Soviet Union, any more than it's going to last here in the United States. And I think the riots in Hong Kong are a perfect example of that. All right. Thank you, guys. Do you use I-40 to drive to New Mexico? I did, actually. We went up. So I'll give you the route that we took. So we left Florida. We got on I-75 because you take I-75 out of Florida. Took that up to Tifton, Georgia. Came across on US 82 into Birmingham, and then first to Birmingham, and then into Mississippi, and then up into Memphis, right? And then crossed the Big Muddy in Memphis. Didn't stop. Went in Arkansas, didn't see one goddamn chicken farm. We did see rice fields. So, hats off to moment of silence for Ross Perot. No chicken field. Didn't see any chicken farms along and then we got on I-40. We took I-40 all the way across to west of Oklahoma City. Stopped in Oklahoma City for the night, which, by the way, is, I think, the closest thing to the next great boom bust town you'll ever see. The amount of construction going on in Oklahoma City. Driving through Oklahoma City looked like fucking Miami. 7 lanes of divided highway, and all this clover leaf that they're building 11 miles outside the town. They're building freaking clover leaves. I'm like, oil money. And then right after that, we hooked up with Texas 152, came straight across the top hat of Texas into the wasteland of northern New Mexico. And then took that into Red River. That was the easiest route. We could have taken I-40 all the way in Albuquerque. I think that's the way I'm going to go home, and I'm going to hook up with probably I-20 and take the I-20 route back at some point. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to take a different route back just because I want to take a different route and see a different part of the world. But the thing I did do right was going through Arkansas for the most part at night and Oklahoma at night because it wasn't 114 freaking degrees. So there was that. It was a relatively pleasant trip. By the time we got into northern Texas, it wasn't the heat wasn't bad. Because we were at that point you're at like 5,000 feet, and so it's just not that bad. Did I get barbecue in Memphis? No, I didn't. We didn't even stop. We actually stopped for dinner on the other side on the other side of the bridge in Arkansas. We went to Wendy's because we wanted to get as many miles behind us as possible. Yeah, I'm not sold on living here or nothing, but it is a place I do like visiting, especially when you live in the ninth circle of hell, because I literally live in one of the hottest places on earth. I mean, from a pure humans shouldn't live here thing perspective, North Florida is just bloody awful. That's why I stay inside all the time. Let's see. I should have stayed in Amarillo. I lived there for 10 years. I used to go to Red River in the 60s. Cool. Stop in Asheville on your way back. What? Asheville, North Carolina? That I can't do. That's way out of my way. Okay, so I'm going to start just to make sure that I understand what's going on with Mark Shearer. So I don't know what we're going to do on the way back. Whether we're going to do the quick trip or take our time going back. We haven't decided yet because I don't have anything pressing on the back end. So can't do Florida. 3 years in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's also Jacksonville's a big friggin' swamp. I mean, Florida is a big friggin' swamp, and especially where I live. So as always, guys, this has been fun. It's been great. As always, if you haven't, go with Tulsi Gabbard, get rid of Google, install Brave, do all that stuff. You can follow my work, as always, over TomLuongo.me. You can sign up for the Patreon of the Gold, Goats, and Guns investment newsletter at Patreon/GoldGoatsAndGuns. You can follow me on Twitter whenever I feel arsed to tweet over at TFL1728. You guys know the drill. I also write for moneyandmarkets.com as well as Strategic Culture. It is, as always, been a pleasure. I do appreciate everybody stopping by on a Friday night. I'm going to go inside and enjoy the next couple of days of my vacation. You guys take care. You be good. Keep your stick on the ice.